Back again. More llama art stories. So, without further ado, let's do this. True lockdown horror stories. Why is it like automatically?
12. So what we're gonna do right now? Oh my god, and
Well, we gotta skip the ad, obviously. Number 2.
I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college, and I recently got a job at my old high school as a sort of computer intern in the school
What's that guy doing?
basement. The basement of the school is very messy and disorganized, but there is a small 3-person office that's actually
Hold up. Do you see that on the shelf? On the bottom, right in the middle. Is that Uganda Knuckles?
very nice down there. It has 3 nice big desks, 2 mini
No.
fridges, a flat screen TV mounted on the wall, and oh so satisfying air conditioning, a luxury the students and teachers cannot enjoy in the school. And of
Oh,
course all the school servers and other computery stuff.
is that Sonic?
I got the job because 3 of my old computer teachers flat out adored me. I could actually
Ooh.
consider them as real friends, not just teacher figures, so they all helped tremendously in landing me this job. It's been great, until something that happened a few weeks ago. My 2 co-workers that shared the office with me, Dave and Gary, weren't in the office at the time. They were upstairs working on papers or whatever.
Posh
I was
people.
eating my sandwich during my lunch break when I got a phone call from one of the women in the front office telling me the school was on lockdown and that somebody, possibly armed, had entered the school. There wasn't much that I could do other than turn off the lights because, surprisingly, as nice as this little office was, it didn't have an actual door to it, just a big opening, and the door to the whole basement didn't even have a working lock. For my own safety, I did turn off all the lights in the office and my computer screen. I kept my phone on the desk,
I'm getting
texting both
freaked out.
Gary and Dave, but they wouldn't respond. I sat down there in the dark, playing games on my phone for like 20 minutes, waiting for the call from up front to tell me to resume working. I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't hear what was going on upstairs from down here. But I was not allowed to make any calls until I was informed that the lockdown was over. Then the noisy basement door opened. As the creaking
No.
echoed across the
You
basement and
gotta
into my
protect
office,
me.
I sat up from my
Do you
seat,
know the way?
wondering if I should
I
call
don't.
out Gary or Dave. I was eager to get some info from them. Someone then came running down the stairs, and their footsteps were approaching my office. I pushed away my chair and crawled under my desk. Somebody entered the office, but did not turn on the lights. There was just silence. I can't even describe the fear
Oh, I
I was
hate this.
experiencing. I felt like if I made one sudden noise, I'd be a dead man. Suddenly, my phone dinged as I got a text message. I felt my entire world shrivel up and die at that one moment as I clenched my teeth in fear.
Put your phone in flight
Footsteps suddenly
mode.
moved closer to me until I finally dove out from under the desk in capitulation, begging whoever it was not to kill me. And just then, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me up. It was some guy in a red plaid button-up, jeans, and a reddish-black cap. He told me, "It's okay, I'm just down here hiding with you." "What's going on up there?" I whispered to him. He kind of ignored my question and asked me if there's an exit down here. I told him, yeah, around that way. Before he could do anything
Oh,
else,
why
I
don't
asked
you
him,
leave?
"Who are you?" There was a brief moment of silence. Before he started,
First of all, why would you work in a school, you know? A high school as well. Second of all, why would you work in a basement? Especially if no and if there's an exit nearby. Escape! Run out! Run all the way to Mexico, Africa, or savages away from there!
explaining he was coming in to pick up his son when a teacher told him to hide. After his explanation, I checked my phone and saw the text I received was from Dave. It said, "Dude, this is fucking crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and a hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." I was about to reread that text out loud to the man, until I realized.
No.
I looked up, and felt my stomach sink. The man seemed to catch on to my suspicious stare. Panicking, all I could think to do was to run for the upstairs. A gunshot echoed through the basement, and I could hear the bullet ricochet off something metal in the darkness. But thank God the bullet missed me, and I made it upstairs. Fortunately, police were waiting at all exits, including the basement exit, and caught the man the second he opened the door. More good news, our teacher, Mr. Buckley, survived the gunshot. It was later determined that the man and Mr. Buckley had some beef for whatever reason, but that was never revealed.
Some diss track
All we
beef.
know is that Mr. Buckley couldn't have done anything that would have warranted this kind of reaction. And I know that the sound of that gunshot will forever echo in my mind.
Oh. That wasn't too bad, but let's move on to the next one.
So
A
just
Christmas
lying down,
Eve horror story.
we're going to focus the attention on the
A Christmas Eve horror story. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm sitting on my mattress and it just moved. I hate that. Because on the end it's like sitting up. I don't want my feet touching it because I'm a tall person, pretty much. I hate that music.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train. Since I'm one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts, so I wasn't able to get home until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all of my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone.
Hey!
I stayed until around
Are you
11
subscribed to
o'clock.
Rebel
The
Macca
rest
or
of my family
PewDiePie?
left a little sooner.
Or the PS4
I
Gamer?
stayed
Shout
an
out.
extra half hour or so just to hang out
Or
before
YTK
leaving
Vince?
myself.
Shout out.
By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from the store.
Sorry.
It was a ghost town. But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on
Bumper
the side of the road,
cars.
and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint. As I got closer, I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help.
Why is
So,
this flipping
me
you
being
off?
the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average-sized man, probably 5 foot
Santa.
10, 180 pounds. He spoke in
Santa
a very
lost weight.
demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine. I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out, and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second.
Don't do that.
I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused.
He wants you to be
Walked
the
over
father
the
of
front
his
his car, And I
children.
heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hand on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up. I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open
Ooh,
completely.
failure.
As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my keys. He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house key right into his neck.
Hell
He
yes!
fell to his knees, and his scream echoed down the deserted street.
Yes!
I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his
Congratulations.
knees.
Good on ya. That's what you meant to do. Just
A
stab
little
him.
further down, I
Or
called
in
911
Australia, you
and
phone him.
reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing
Good on
ever
ya.
felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour
Good
later
job.
and told my family everything.
Yeah,
I was still very
obviously.
shaken that Christmas. And this
Yeah.
remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
No. Well, you know, you did stab him. Yeah. Okay. This one is called Scary Field Trip Horror Stories Animated. So, let's get into it.
Back in high school, I took a mysteries and mythology type class, or
I'd like that. I wonder if they got that in my school. If they do, I'll do that.
something like that. I don't remember the name of the class. It basically just had to do with real life mysteries and creepy shit.
Oh, that's awesome. Jeez, that's a great class.
I was into that kind of stuff. I was taking the class with a good friend, who I'll call Ben for this story. The teacher of the class took us on a field trip to a nearby abandoned village with an unknown past.
Ooh.
The village was built
Spooky.
in the early 1900s, but seems as though it had been quickly abandoned shortly after it was built. The bus ride there was about 20 minutes. All of us were glued to the bus windows as we pulled up some sketchy-looking, decrepit road cutting through dense forest. The road eventually led to a clearing. We were there. We stepped out onto the road, which had grass growing through the cracks. The grass surrounding was almost knee-high. Then there were the buildings. The tall, archaic brick buildings.
Imagine someone comes in with like a massive sledgehammer and just starts smashing all the walls. And it sounds like something I'd do. Or something. Or someone like me would do.
Windows all gave off such chilling vibes. The teacher lined all 20 of us up, counted heads,
Wait, isn't it the same guy that got shot? Jeez.
and then began leading the way. The point of this little field trip was to use the so-called skills we learned in class to see if we could put anything together about why the village may have been abandoned so long ago.
Well, by the looks of it, it's definitely not 5-star quality.
Some of the buildings had holes in the walls to serve as entryways. There were even holes in the ground next to some of the buildings, seemingly dug to get into the basements of some of the buildings, which seemed creepy. There was one building, though. It stood taller than any of the others. It just intrigued me the most. While the teacher was leading the group towards the village church, Ben and I decided to sneak off on our own to look for anything interesting. When we walked off in the direction of the tallest building, we saw a hole in the ground. It was dug by the back door of the building, which had been sealed off. In the hole was a ladder, which led down to the concrete floor below. We both looked at each other and knew we had to do it. Ben climbed down first, then me. Luckily, this was just around the time Apple started putting flashlights on their phones, so we had a source of light. It was creepy.
Hey, did you know Apple has recently released a new device for for Chinese people? It's called the Eye Opener.
Down there.
Oh.
There were a couple of beer bottles, one graffiti tag on the wall, and dusty wooden planks everywhere.
This is nothing. I don't understand.
There was a wooden stairway which led up to complete darkness, since all windows and doors had been sealed shut from above. We had already gone as far as to enter the building, so we figured we'd go up the stairs too. I went first, and with each step, the creakiness of the 100-year-old wood made me feel as if I was going to fall through each and every step. Ben followed suit. This floor of the building was very tight. It seemed like there were many openings going off into different, smaller rooms. It was so dark in there, you would never even guess it was daytime. Ben and I were honestly starting to get creeped out in there and agreed to go back outside. But just then, there was a noise in one of the tiny rooms, like a big rock hitting the concrete floor. A normal instinct would
Freddy?
be to run, but Ben and I froze, locked eyes for a moment, then both
No.
tiptoed over to the opening of the room.
I don't want to do this.
We shined the lights into the room and ran. We ran back down the stairs and then up the rusty ladder back outside. We caught up to the group out of breath. We didn't say anything though to avoid getting in trouble. One of our classmates asked us what was wrong. We told him we snuck into one of the buildings. And in one of the rooms, when we shined the light into it, we saw 3 guys standing away from the doorway, facing Ben and I in a weird formation, as if they were waiting for us. As we continued following the group,
What's the time?
we paid extra attention to the tall building we
Oh,
entered from the
okay.
distance. And before leaving, we saw a person's face at one of the higher level windows that had not been boarded up. We never told the teacher in fear of getting in trouble. We didn't know what to think. Were those just homeless people living in there? Were they gang members in hiding? Ben freaks me out with his theory. He says they were ghosts of the people who once lived in the town.
Does that put the
The way
headphones
the
back
3
on?
guys were just hauntingly standing there, so calmly, staring at us the moment we peeked our heads through that door.
Yeah, nah, not
I
doing
still
that.
can't get that image out of my head. I may go
Irrelevant.
back to that village one day, just to prove Ben's idea wrong.
What are you doing? Does it say? Better be. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Scary Vacation Stories number 2.
I was vacationing in the Bahamas when I was 14 with some family friends. My friend
Okay, well that makes me feel better. At least it's not some abandoned town. Please get rid of that pumpkin.
and I were getting some henna tattoos at the hotel, and there was this guy lingering around us. But we didn't think much of it because
What taking from his chin? Jesus.
a lot of people would stop to see what was going on. After mine was done, I told my friend and her mom I was going to go back to the room to get ready for dinner. There were 2 ways to the other side of the hotel, either inside through a bunch of small stores or outside along the pool. I walked through the inside and got to the elevator, where I saw the guy who had been watching us already at the elevator.
Oh no.
We got on
Wait.
together, and
Why has he got a handbag?
he gestured for me to choose my floor button first. I clicked it, but he didn't choose another floor. Alarms start going off in my head. But what could I do? I was stuck in an elevator.
GG. GG, my brother. My sister, I guess. What a weirdo. Who does that? Is it meant to be like scary? It just looks strange. Oh my god, that is so loud.
My floor, and I started walking to
Why was that so loud?
my room. In this hotel, most of the rooms face the ocean, so to the right in this hallway were just windows. I was in the very last room on that floor, and I could see the guy following me about 10 feet behind.
Spank him.
About 2 doors from my room, he ran up and grabbed me. I kicked and screamed, and he dropped onto the floor. I ran to the room and locked myself in. After talking with security and giving a description, they found the guy and found out that he had actually been following multiple younger women in the building.
shoot him. Like, shoot him on the spot, damn. Ah, damn. So they end up getting him. Like, that wasn't in the story. Well, anyway, that'll be it for the video today. I don't know how it ended up being 20 minutes, but it did. I shall see you all in the next video. Bye bye. Stay awesome.